Yeah, so let's talk about the failing Biden regime in the wake of their complete collapse in Afghanistan, because Biden decided unilaterally to pull out all of the troops before doing anything that you would actually do when you're leaving deployment in a foreign country. So what was Kamala Harris doing when ISIS bombs and suicide bombers were exploding at Kabul, killing 60 or however many civilians and 13 American citizens, including servicemen? She was in Vietnam for some reason. She had flown previously in the week to Southeast Asia to talk about LGBT rights. Top priority.
I'm sorry, this is the biggest international crisis the Americans have had to deal with in years.
Yes.
That directly involves them.
As you said, it's going to be the defining feature of Biden's presidency, unless something worse happens tomorrow somewhere else. But I can't imagine what that could be. But of course, I didn't think this was going to happen. But yeah, she for some reason is in Vietnam discussing LGBT rights.
And climate change.
Yeah, and climate change and disabled rights and things like that, because that's important. And so this is apparently increasingly important to American efforts to counter China's influence globally. It's like, yes, China won't have any influence in Afghanistan. I mean, they only share a border. They're only going to be...
I mean, they have diplomatic relations already.
They already have diplomatic relations.
Unofficial, not official.
Of course it's all going to be unofficial. But the point is, this is ridiculous, and I can't believe that this is even on their list. Who cares about LGBT rights in Vietnam when American troops are dying in Afghanistan because of your administration's bad decisions? Unbelievable. I mean, I don't even know what to say about it. It just goes to show you how myopic their view of the world is and how Twitter focused it is. Nobody who's not on Twitter gives a damn about this right now. Anyway, so what's Nancy Pelosi doing? What do you think Nancy was doing?
I don't know. Trying to organise an airlift?
Pressing the vag.
What?
Women. We need to talk about Women's Equality Day in San Francisco. Literally. American soldiers are dying in Afghanistan. All the Republicans are like, oh my God, what's going on in Afghanistan? And Nancy Pelosi's like, women's rights, Women's Equality Day.
This is exactly, I think it's the same day that the Taliban have now got the seat at the UN's Women's Committee or whatever it is.
Not one criticism of that. Not of our comrades and partners in Afghanistan from Nancy Pelosi, because that would go against the Democratic Party line.
I mean, it seems like to me they all want none of this to go on them. They want all of the blame to go on Biden. Therefore, I'm just going to walk off and talk about women's rights.
Literally, I'm going to do something else so I don't have to be tarred with the complete failure that is Biden's administration. So yeah, just why not talk about women's rights in San Francisco? There's nothing more important going on. And I tell you what, if there's one thing that there's a real problem with in San Francisco, it's got to be women's rights, right? I mean, California, you know how oppressive that is to women. They can't, any women's problems are most severely felt in California, I've got no doubt.
I've just got Bernie Sanders' speech stuck in my head. The American people are tired of women. You've seen that clip, haven't you?
I have, and I think he might be on something. So what
presumably that's what he's up to.
Yeah, what was the military's bureaucracy up to? Well, Jack Posobiec lets us know. Talking about diversity. Diversity in the military. What was the General Milley, presumably there in blackface with makeup and nice long nails, tweeting, "Diversity is a number. Do you have people who don't look or think like you in the room? Inclusion is listening and valuing to those people," which is probably why they're sat there saying our partners in Afghanistan, the Taliban, right? They don't look like us and they don't think like us. And if this is your philosophy, to include people, bring everyone in so everyone's involved, then we actually have to take the Taliban seriously as a political and intellectual force, because they're going to be thinking, they're going to have perspectives that we won't have. This is all critical race theory, by the way. We're going to do the thing on the book at the moment. I'm working on it, and this is exactly the rationale that arrives at this position, right?
You know the thing in my head, like remember the diversity advert the Americans did with like I was raised by two moms.
Yep.
That one. I'm looking forward to the next one where they celebrate diversity, and it was like me and Abdul here, my partner in Afghanistan. There's just Taliban all around him.
Yeah.
We have an inclusive space.
And we're going to defeat ISIS together.
These people don't look like me, therefore we're better together.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's absolutely incredible. Inclusion is listening to and valuing those people. Women's Equality Day reminds us that we're smarter and more lethal when we come together as an inclusive, coherent team. Our values demand it.
We're a more lethal force when we're inclusive.
I'm just saying the results are already manifest. Like, it doesn't appear to be true. It appeared that when Trump was in charge of the military and telling them how to do things, that they were actually a far more lethal force than they are now.
Women's Equality Day makes us more lethal. What a statement. I mean, technically it does. I mean, more
I guess
people-
so. The
more American
casualty.
servicemen have died since we embrace this.
I guess that's true, but it's just so embarrassing. And then it's like, look at the the color swatch of soldiers that we've got. That's amazing, brilliant. You've
Which
got
one are you?
black soldiers, Asian soldiers. That's incredible. That's so forward thinking. I wonder if we can win a war. Jesus. Anyway, so of course, where's Biden? Where is the person upon whose dusty, ancient, graying, like parchment-like shoulders does this rest? Well, who knows? Jack Posobiec tweets out, "It's like Biden is in a fugue state, paralyzed, totally MIA of rapidly changing news," as per one anonymous White House official. Not surprised, because basically it's been really weird getting reports from the Biden White House. They've looked increasingly catatonic with the press conferences they've had to do. One the day before yesterday, they were just 4 hours late for a press conference. I was sat there reading a book, waiting for this press conference. I just had my phone on, just waiting. And then Biden comes out, gives like a 15-minute speech, and then just walks off. It's like, okay, what are you doing? You know? But anyway, so they were going to have a speech and press conference today, but then it was cancelled. And so was Psaki. But the thing is, events kept getting worse, and it got worse and worse and worse. And so eventually Biden had to come out and give another press conference.
Look at that dislike ratio.
Oh, yeah. To be honest with you, it was way higher yesterday. I was watching it.
Probably YouTube at their work again.
I do believe it may well be. But yeah, so this, I mean, the speech that he gave was quite a stock speech for an American. He starts leaning back into, like, you know, honor, God, country, and things like that. It's like, that's weird coming out of the Democrats. Don't really buy it, to be honest, but I guess as a traditional fallback. But yeah, so the fact that initially they weren't going to do any press conferences, it had to be done. So he came out again late, and honestly, he just seemed battered. He just seemed exhausted. Just, you know, just really just slumping. He just seemed down, man. And I'm not surprised. But also, you could see how much of a stage-managed production Biden's press conferences are. He literally has a list of people to ask. He literally is. He just says it because he's too old.
Pre-approved questions.
Oh, absolutely, and pre-approved people, and you can see it in other press conferences where he pulls out a piece of paper and then asks someone the question, and it's like, okay, so you know who you were going to ask, and you have the answers already prepared, so you chose that person. But then in this one, he just says it. Ladies and gentlemen, they gave me a list here. Well, who's they, Joe? Who's the they who gave you a list? The first person I was instructed to call on was Kelly O'Donnell of NBC. Like, you're saying the quiet part out loud? You're not meant to be saying, look, my presidency is an entirely stage-managed presidency. And I tell you what, the results of which are very, very obvious. You know, we were guessing this anyway. So I guess it's just nice for you to come out and say it, that you're not really in charge. And everyone can see that, right? And so he's got this list of people to ask. And so he ends up going through some questions. And I figure that we'll view through the clips because the responses are just amazing. Joe Biden, he's totally out to lunch. And it's incredible. Let's play the first clip.
There's been some criticism, even from people in your party, about the dependence on the Taliban to secure the perimeter of the airport. Do you feel like there was a mistake made in that regard?
No, I don't. Look, I think General McKenzie handled this question very well. The fact is that we're in a situation, we inherited a situation, particularly since, as we all know, that the Afghan military collapsed 11 days before, in 11 days, that it is in the interest of, as McKenzie said, in the interest of the Taliban, that in fact ISIS-K does not metastasize beyond what it is. No one trusts them. We're just counting on their self-interest to continue to generate their activities. And it's in their self-interest that we leave when we said, and that we get as many people out as we can.
That's amazing. That's amazing, isn't it?
Is he away with the fairies or something?
Yeah, he's totally gone, right? He's literally like an Egyptian mummy at this point. But this is an incredibly stupid series of statements. So the first one, was it a mistake to put American security in the hands of the terrorists who you used to call the Taliban, and now you
2
call
weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, now you call your comrades or allies or whatever it was. No, we didn't make a mistake. Okay, so 13 Americans dead and 60 odd, however many civilians dead, was not a mistake, according to Joe Biden.
I mean, getting yourself into a position where you're in this rather than evacuating in May.
It's mad.
That's the thing. I know the charitable interpretation will be, well, everything's collapsed, therefore we have to use them.
It only
But-
collapsed because of his choices.
Exactly, right? That's the thing. It's like, you're the one that made this whole situation, lad.
Unless it's the people who instructed you on how to conduct this press conference. Could we speak to your handlers, please? Would that be more easy for you?
Easy for us.
It'd be easier for us, yeah, definitely. Right, but I love this, right? So, no, we didn't make a mistake. So, right. So, this was intentional. So, you planned to have this happen. Don't really believe you, and really what this comes across looking like is the fact that Joe Biden could never admit when he's wrong, right? So, the point of their narrative, and you see this with left-wing narratives, especially coming out of Psaki and the rest of them, it's never, we made a mistake, we shouldn't have done that, we could have done things better. No, everything is always perfect all the time. So this is basically a fascist narrative, the glowing golden, oh, we did nothing wrong, right? Obvious nonsense. And it would really be very easy for him to say, yeah, it looks like that was an oversight, we didn't think this was going to happen, so this is what we're going to do. You be an adult about it, right? But instead, Joe Biden is acting like a child about it. But moreover, he's like, well, we're expecting the Taliban to, we're expecting their interests to prevail. We're relying on their self-interest. It's like,
Right. You can argue it's in their interest to get rid of the Yankees, so then they can get on with being the Taliban.
Mm-hmm.
It is not in their interest to let the Afghanis who worked with the previous administration leave, is it?
No.
Because they might form a resistance.
No.
Therefore, it's in their interest to just kill those people on sight.
but think about it. Who are the people who are going to be surrounding Kabul airport? It's not loyalist Taliban supporters, is it? No, it's those Afghans who are trying to get out of that country because they worked with the Americans because they think the Taliban are going to shoot them. And so they're like, oh, we're relying on their self-interest. Their self-interest is those people being blown up, Joe, right? And like, it's just mad. Why do you think you know what the Taliban self-interest is? Like you're adopting a very American-centric perspective. Do you think the Taliban care if a few civilians die? They don't care. They don't hold human rights sacred as the Americans are supposed to. But anyway, let's go on to the clip 2 where he continues, and this is the only argument he's got. So, oh, well, we thought it was the Taliban's self-interest. It's their self-interest. Go on.
The Taliban, they're not good guys, the Taliban. We're not suggesting that at all. But they have keen interest. As many of you have been reporting, they very much would like to figure out how to keep the airport open. They don't have the capacity to do it. They very much are trying to figure out whether or not they can maintain what is the portion of an economy that has become not robust, but fundamentally different than it had been. And so there's a lot of reasons why they have reached out, not just to us, but to others, as to why it would be continued in their interest to get more of the personnel we want to get out.
The Taliban are not good guys. They're not trustworthy, but they have reached out to us, and we think it's in their best interest that they're going to be doing this, and so we'll take them at their word for it. They don't care about civilian casualties. They don't care.
Well, they have an active interest to kill those who are trying to flee because
Yes,
they might
they do.
join some kind of resistance against their rule.
Yes, they do. And this again, there's no real thought that's on behind it. They want the airport open, yeah, and they don't care how many people die in the process of keeping that airport open. They just don't care. They're not bothered. This is not how they think. And so this entire perspective from the Biden administration appears to be, well, we can work with them because we can give them something and they will give us something in return. It's like, did they? You trusted them with the security of Americans in the in Afghanistan, and they're not good guys and they're not trustworthy. Why did you do that? You're idiots. That's why. This inclusive philosophy that you all seem to espouse seems to have gone far too far, doesn't it? Anyway, let's see if Biden wants to take any responsibility for this.
Do you bear any responsibility for the way that things have unfolded in the last 2 weeks?
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened of late.
The hell is that
But
body?
here's the deal.
Exactly.
I wish you'd one day say these things. As well as I do, that the former president made a deal with the Taliban that he would get all American forces out of Afghanistan by May 1. In return, the commitment was made, and that was a year before. In return, he was given a commitment that the Taliban would continue to attack others, but would not attack any American forces. Remember that? I'm being serious. No, I'm asking you a question. Because before... No, wait a minute. I'm asking you a question. Is that accurate, the best...
About, but Mr. President, respectfully, since that I don't think that the issue that do you think that people have an issue with pulling out of Afghanistan or just the way that things have happened?
I think they have an issue that people are likely to get hurt. Some, as we've seen, have gotten killed, and that it is messy.
He goes on to then make it further excuses, but you can see what he's... I take responsibility, but Trump. And...
But also, that's not dunk on Trump.
No.
That's Donald Trump made the peace deal, and he also had the plan to get out by May before everything crumbled. And that's why no American servicemen died in the last 18 months, thanks to him.
And he backed it up with force.
Yep.
They knew that he was going to drop bombs on them if they didn't do as they were supposed to do.
When they reneged on a couple of the first draft agreements, well, he dropped the Moab.
Yeah, exactly. He couldn't really have gone much bigger than that, right? And this I think at least the Taliban can understand. Okay, so we've got a lunatic in the White House who's actually going to drop the biggest bomb he can on us. Right. Well, maybe we won't attack the Americans then. But now you've got a complete weasel in the White House who, look at his hands, just look at the...
What was that whole thing where just in the middle of listening to the reporter, he just put his hands in his
head
face?
in his hands. I no idea. But he looks completely crumpled, completely
Quick
defeated.
sniff of his own hands, I guess.
No. It looks like he's about to cry, frankly. Yeah. And I'm not surprised because he's the one who's got these people killed, right? He's like, he did this.
We also know his entire presidency is now buggered.
Yeah. And so him claiming, I ultimately bear responsibility, but I'm not going to take any responsibility for it. Of course he's not. He, of course, as you said, admitted that it was Trump's deal that was the reason that there were no US deaths, as in this didn't happen on Trump's watch, did it? It was also very amusing to watch Jen Psaki fleeing her own press conference. So she was doing parallel press conference for some reason alongside Biden. Don't know why she didn't do it before or after, but just watch this. So this is the end of her press conference. Oh, can't get out of there quick enough. Gone. That's it. Thanks very much. Bye. Anyway, so Biden is a disgrace starts trending, which I'm not surprised at all. Have we got that next one up? No, not that one. We'll go to Trump's response afterwards, if that's all right, John. Come back to that one. Next one. There we go. So Donald Trump Jr. Just Biden is a disgrace starts trending, and obviously everyone agrees. Even like huge amounts of left wingers were like, yeah, okay, this was too bad. This was just beyond the pale. This is a great point. If China were to hatch a plan from within the United States to weaken us on the global stage, make our allies question our allegiances and our resolve, and embolden our enemies, could they possibly do a better job than Biden is currently doing? No, not really. I mean, what more could be done? So, and of course, he is suggesting that perhaps maybe Biden should be impeached for his terrible plan, his catastrophic withdrawal, and being responsible, in his own words, for getting 13 Americans killed. Why not? Are we talking about impeachment yet? Asking for a friend who's impeached but for a phone call, but definitely wouldn't strand thousands of American civilians behind enemy terrorist lines. And just to be clear, after the Battle of, Argonusae, I think it was, during the Peloponnesian War, when the Athenian admirals left a bunch of Athenian sailors floating in the sea and fleeing, they were all court-martialed and hanged. Just to let you know. When you leave your troops behind, you get killed for it, back in a sensible state, like ancient Athens. In modern America, apparently, you go off and talk about diversity. Anyway, so there were some amusing things that came out of this. Sam Harris actually had the good grace to retweet one of his old tweets. So when Sam, not a big fan of Donald Trump, and when Biden got in, feeling overwhelming gratitude for the adults in the room now after Biden's election, and he tweets to saying, publicly eating these words syllable by syllable. Well, good for him. He does also follow this up, though, and Gad Saad, go back in a second, actually. Gad Saad says, some of us tried to warn you, but you were drowning in your hysterical and irrational Trump hatred. Based Gad Saad. Absolutely love the Gadfather. Next time around, don't reject those with whom you share many values simply because of your blind tribal hysteria. Bloody hell, you're going in hard here. I'll wait for your apology or privately if you prefer. Okay, Gad.
Sorry to say, Gad's just obviously right.
He's taking no prisoners.
Sam Harris went very strange on Trump. Like his rejection of Trump wasn't just, well, I think he's ineffective, or I think
He's a
bad because
bumbling
these
moron,
reasons,
blah,
or
blah, blah, you know.
No, it was unreasonable.
Trump is the great Satan. Sam Harris, famous atheist.
Shaitan.
But yes, and this didn't stop either. We can go to the next one, right? I love this. So someone was like, if you think Trump would have done better, you're a delusional. And he says, I don't think that. I'm merely acknowledging how incompetent, utterly incompetent, the Biden administration has been in executing our withdrawal from Afghanistan. So, okay, how could Trump have done worse?
We have Trump's plan.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, May 1st, as Biden says, that was the out date. Like, everything was to be gone then.
Mm-hmm.
And if Afghanistan would have collapsed anyway, as in the state that was there before the regime and the Taliban took over, everyone would have already left.
At least American citizens wouldn't have been there.
And if they had remained, it would be their fault because they were told to leave by May 1st. That was Trump's plan.
Yes.
So
That's
I
actually a
don't-
good plan.
I don't know how that looks worse to this, which is extend it for no reason, start evacuating your troops immediately, but leave loads of civilians behind, not tell them to get out, and then as everything slowly collapses, do nothing until the point where the Taliban are now your partners and allies in the region.
Put your safety in the hands of the Taliban and hope that they protect you from ISIS, which they didn't. Yeah, Trump would have been way worse. He would have been just as incompetent, I'm sure. Anyway, so the leftist hypocrisy on this is palpable and gross. So if we can get this picture up. So this is this guy he's got like 1 million followers on Twitter.
Yeah, some weird verified checkmark who's like
Yeah.
paid up. If he's not getting paid to do this, I don't know why he does it.
Well, he must be. He must be getting paid. But I love this. It's so ridiculous, right? The Trump admin has been one rolling disaster after another, but the disaster in Syria comes with a steep price. Civilian Kurds are dying, and all because Trump needs distractions from the impeachment. Do something, Congress. Hashtag Kurds betrayed by Trump, right? And then now, that was in 2019. If you are using the terrorist attacks on America and Afghan citizens to blame President Biden, stop it. It's disgusting. Shame on you. Whose side do you want to win anyway? And that's what it all comes down to. It's like our team can do no wrong, and Trump's team is evil.
Even when the situation is
so
obviously
obviously,
different.
yeah.
You know, one's a country that we've been in 20 years, one's a country that we're not even meant to be in, and also one's about Kurds and one's about Americans.
And also, Trump's actions in Syria saved a lot of lives and prevented an escalating war in that conflict zone.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I actually think Trump did exactly the right thing in Syria, and he would have presumably done the right thing in Afghanistan.
He asserted American dominance. I
Yes,
mean,
he did.
Obama and Biden, both being in there, put their red lines, and then when
Did
the
nothing.
foreigners went over the red lines, did nothing. So Trump was like, "Here's the red line." They went over it. All right, bomb them.
Yeah. It sucks for your airfield. A couple of people died, but everyone
Yeah.
was quiet.
We are the biggest economy on Earth by an unbelievable amount. We are the biggest military presence on Earth and can invade multiple places at once and feel nothing at home.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but American power on a geopolitical scale is immense and is to be understood in that context.
Oh, yeah.
And then the inability to use that is just weird. It's like, you're the president of the United States if you're Obama. Why not just enforce your red lines?
Yeah, do something, and Trump did, and this guy was whining about it. But really, you get the sort of disgusting conclusion of the Biden regime. This is just, I don't think we can use the airport anymore with the TikTok influencer. I love this meme so much because this is just the absolute nadir of the Biden regime. This is what they think of themselves as. They're like, oh, we're going to be like the internet administration or something. I swear to God. But you deserve all the ragging that you get for this absolute catastrophe. But right, so let's go back to Trump. So Trump had posted somehow or somewhere. It wasn't on his website. I don't know where this statement came from. But if we can scroll down and actually get the statement up so I can read it out, because it was just a picture. Do we have the full
Should be a
thing?
Breitbart link, not this one.
Right, okay. So Trump says, Melania and I send our deepest condolences to the families of our brilliant and brave service members whose duty to the USA meant so much to them. Our thoughts are also with the families of the innocent civilians who died today in the savage Kabul attack. This tragedy should never have been allowed to happen, which makes our grief even deeper and more difficult to understand. I mean, what an absolutely sensitive and remarkably sensitive, again, for Donald
Well,
Trump.
also sane and what you'd expect.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing. There's nothing
Appropriate.
There's nothing amazing about that where I'm like, oh my god, the wordsmith. But that's what you'd expect the president of the United States to say in response to that kind of
But
attack.
it's exactly the right tone, exactly the right tenor. He doesn't make a partisan attack, even though, he says it shouldn't have been allowed to happen. Anyone could have said that for any reason, because it didn't have to happen. None of this had to happen, right? And then there was a Fox News sort of presidential announcement from the president, Donald Trump, the previous president, I suppose we have to say. And this, honestly, I think is what I think we're all missing. Because I don't know about you, but I'm really missing Trump at this point.
Dark age.
It's absolute dark age. But let's hear it.
As one nation, America mourns the loss of our brave and brilliant American service members in a savage and barbaric terrorist attack in Afghanistan. These noble American warriors laid down their lives in the line of duty. They sacrificed themselves for the country that they loved, racing against time to rescue their fellow citizens from harm's way. They died as American heroes, and our nation will honor their memory forever. I want to express my deepest condolences to the families of those we have lost. Today, all Americans grieve alongside you. Together, we also pray that God will heal the other courageous American service members who were wounded in this heinous attack. In addition, our hearts are with the families of all the innocent civilians who died, and with the many men, women, and children who were terribly injured in this act of evil. This tragedy should never have taken place. It should never have happened, and it would not have happened if I were your president. Over the past few weeks, I know that many Americans have felt profound sorrow and even pain watching the events taking place in Afghanistan, and perhaps none more so than the veterans of that 20-year war. Many of them answered the call proudly and without hesitation after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. Every American who served in Afghanistan has made tremendous sacrifices for our country. On behalf of your fellow citizens, I want you to know that those sacrifices were not made in vain. We know what you did. We know how brave you were, and we thank you. We salute you, and we honor you for all time. I hope that every American will join me in continuing to pray for the safe return of all U.S. citizens and soldiers from Afghanistan in the coming days. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Much better.
Yeah, I was actually surprised Biden did press conferences instead of just making a pre-recorded video like that.
Yep. You would think. I mean, that's such a much more correct thing to do.
Proper,
Yeah, proper.
as the English would say.
Yes.
Thank you for watching this clip from the podcast The Lotus Eaters. If you want more from us, please go over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to get access to all the premium content that we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff there. So we've been doing this for quite some time. So we've got a huge library of content in various different categories. Now, some of my favorites have been the book clubs. I'm personally a big fan of these because it means we get to read good books and important books, extract the useful information out of them, such as with this Roger Scruton's Where We Are, which is a very interesting conservative take on the current culture wars in the state of Britain at the moment. So we go through and explore the meaningful concepts. And here's one that you and Bo did with Frank Dicotta's Mao's Great Famine. It's absolutely brilliant and harrowing to read. And so when all the comments on this were happened to be, well, this was vile, we knew we'd done a good job with it. And we also have many other premium series like the Contemplations, where Hugo and Josh just go through and find something very interesting to talk about, such as this one talks about the idea of political representation and does it work, or is it a bit of a myth? And of course, we have the history content, which probably my personal favourite in this particular one. Myself and Bo talked about the achievements of Frankish warlord Charles Martel. Do you know what he's famous for, Callum?
Stopping the Muslims at Tours.
That's right. And we also do a bunch of premium videos and interviews and things like this. So in this one, we happen to have an interview with Michael Malice, who's a very, very charming guest, and I very much enjoyed this one. And we also do a bunch of premium podcasts about stuff that perhaps isn't appropriate for YouTube or various other platforms like that because of, some things outside of their editorial bounds.
So if you'd like to get access to all that premium content, please go over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe for as low as £5 a month. Thank you.